Hello everyone. My name is Namyeon Kim, and I'm glad to meet you. And we are going to study statistics in this semester, right? So this course is basically for those students who are going to write their theses, right? So I'm going to, show you how to use some of the important, statistical techniques that are useful for writing theses, right? So today I'm going to review the materials that we are going to study in this semester, right? Uh, Let me give you some information about, contacting me, right? Uh, I prefer using the email, right? So you use this email address for contacting me. Or if you have an emergency situation, right? Let me give you the cell phone number, right? So my cell phone number is so 010-9750-6386. Okay, this is my cell phone number. And regarding the textbook, there is no textbook for this course. Even though I wrote down the textbook in the syllabus, right? But I'm not going to use the textbook, right? Instead, I'm going to give you the class notes, right? So I'm going to upload the class notes in the teaching and learning support system, right? So I'm going to upload very soon, right? Now, we used to have classes in a computer room, right? Before COVID outbreak. Uh, but unfortunately, we are going to have online classes, right? So you don't have chance to practice computer softwares, right? So what I'm going to do this semester is to give you the some computer homeworks, right? We'll talk about this during the lecture, right? So you'll have chance to practice the softwares, right? Uh, and basically, you are going to have two exams, midterm and final. Those exams are take-home exams, right? So I'm going to give you the questions, and you will have 2 or 3 days for solving those questions, right? We'll talk about these ones later also, right? Uh, today we are not going into the actual statistical stuffs, right? Instead, I'm going to review the materials that we are going to cover in this semester, all right? So let me talk about that, right? This course is taught in English, right? From my past experience, Korean students have some problems of understanding the materials that we study in the class, right? So what I'm going to do in this semester, I'm going to divide class time into two, right? So first half will be taught in English, right? And the second half, I'm going to repeat, those materials covered in the first session in Korean, right? So, today is the same. So I'm going to review, these things in English first, and then I'm going to repeat these things in Korean, right, for Korean students. So let me talk about the materials that we cover this semester, right? Uh, some of you may have experience of studying statistics at the undergraduate school, right? But I'm not assuming that you have studied statistics. So we are going to. I'm going to talk to you about some basics about the hypothesis testing, right? Assuming that you have not studied statistics, right? So the first class, we are going to talk about, the hypothesis testing, right? And the most important stuff that you understand is the concept called p-value, okay? When you do the, when you use the computer software, right? Usually, the statistical package gives you the p-value for your hypothesis testing, right? So you have to know how to interpret, p-value, right? So I'm going to talk to you about, how to interpret p-value and the basic, the theoretical part of the p-value, right? And next class, we are going to talk about analysis of variance, right? Uh, so, first we are going to deal with the one-way ANOVA, right? We'll talk about this stuff, what one-way means, right? And we are going to talk about two-way ANOVA next time, and the interaction effect, right? And then the most popular technique called regression, right? Basically, regression is the technique that is used to find the relationship between dependent variable and independent variables, right? So we'll talk about that later. And if you have one independent variable, it is called a simple regression. And if you have more than one independent variable, it is called a multiple regression, okay? And also, we are going to talk about dummy variables. Dummy variable is used to represents a categorical variable, right? If you have a quantitative variable, then there is no problem of using regression, right? But if you have, categorical variable like, gender, right? In that case, you have to transform the categorical variable to the quantitative variable, right? In that case, you need to have a new variable called dummy variable, right? And also, we are going to talk about the logistic regression. Usually, when you use regression, right, you need to have a quantitative variable for the dependent variable, right? If you have a categorical variable for dependent variable, then you need to use logistic regression, right? Instead of the usual regression, right? So we'll talk about this one. And also, we are going to deal with the comparing regression models, right? Which model is better, right? So we'll talk about this one also. And usually, when you do the empirical research, right? You make you questionnaires and you get the data from the people, right? And you have to check the reliability of your data, and also you need to check the discriminant validity check, right? And so we are going to deal with those things. For the reliability check, you need to know the concept called Crumbars alpha, right? So we'll talk about that. Also, the one of the most popular method nowadays is called SEM. It stands for structural equation modeling, right? And for this modeling, we need to have software called Amos, right? So we are going to talk about these things, right? Nowadays, many people use SEM, especially in the field of social science, right? So we are going to, study these things, and I'm going to show you how to use Amos and how to create, models, those things, and also we'll talk about the Amos outputs using some, example. And we are going to talk about the mediated effect, right? Indirect effect, and a technique called bootstrapping, right? And also we are going to talk about moderate effect, right? And and also we are going to talk about, some people use PLS instead of Amos, right? So, I'm going to show you how to use software called Smart PLS, right? And also, one of the most popular method in statistics is the maximum likelihood, right? So I'm going to talk to you about what this is, right? That's the those are the materials that we are going to cover in this semester, and after that we are going to have take home final exam, right? So this is the end of first class. I'm going to repeat this material in Korean in the second half of this class. Okay.